Hello and welcome back to All You Can Board. I'm Carlo and I'm here with my cousin Dylan once again. And this is episode 1 of a new series that we're very excited to be introducing onto the channel that we are calling Dig In or Move On. So this is basically a first impressions style series that we've come up with sort of in order to free ourselves from the shackles of the expectations of feeling like we need to play a game a certain number of times in order to do a full review or talk about it a certain amount on the channel or that sort of thing. This ties into our update video, which you will have seen recently, or if you didn't, you can go there if you're curious as to more about this. But yeah, we're going to be talking about 10 games today, and we're basically just going to give you a very brief sort of first impressions, and then at the end we're going to determine whether, and we might not agree, we might disagree, are we ready to dig in? Like, is this a game we want to play a lot more and then we will feature it more on the channel? This doesn't mean it's going to get a feature review necessarily.
Yeah.
It just means that you will hear about it again, so we're not going to go too in depth. Or are we going to move on? And move on doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game. Maybe it's just too similar to other games we've played. Maybe it takes too long to play, or we forgot the rules and the barrier to get back to it feels too high. So there's going to be different reasons.
I would almost say like the move on is like that if for one reason or another, which we'll usually almost every time explain when we're talking about it, it's wrong for us. Like either because we don't like it, either because it's too long, either because like we don't have the time for it, whatever it is, in some way or another, there's something preventing us from wanting to play it more, and we're not going to play a game more if we don't want to anymore.
Yeah. A lot of time, if we don't think we're going to see anything new or have anything additionally insightful to say, then why force ourselves to play it? So.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Do you want to add anything else, or do you want to just take it away with our first game here?
Let's take it away. First game that we're going to talk about is Classic Art, which is not a new game. I'm pretty sure this game came out in the 90s.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, like it's
94, I want to guess.
Yeah, like it's an older game. It's new to us, and it's one that I've played twice, and I think you've played once.
Yes, this is a new edition, to be fair.
Yes.
But
yes.
yeah, I played this almost a full year ago, so you definitely remember it a lot more clearly.
From the Doctor, Rainer Knizia. Always happy to play another Rainer Knizia game. This is a game that involves 5 different exhibitions around this like rectangular style board. You're gonna have a hand of art, and you are going to be on your turn playing 2 of those art to one of the exhibitions or to the same exhibition, splitting up your 2 cards to different exhibitions. And essentially what the game is, without getting too in depth into the rules here, is you are influencing which of these exhibitions has the most paintings in them. And you're also making predictions based on, you have a limited number of these cardboard tiles, and you're putting them onto different predictions. That can be that you think this exhibition is going to have 4 or less, or it has 3 or less, or 2 or less, or 1 or less, which some of those are much more specific predictions. Some of them are much more broad. So if I say I'm predicting there's going to be 5 or more in this exhibition, that's something that I'm more likely to hit than if I say there's going to be 8 or more. But you get more points or less points depending on how broad or not broad your prediction is. So the key here in this game is that everyone is influencing all these exhibitions. So I can make a prediction on my turn based on the fact that I just added 2 to the red exhibition, and I can be like, oh, well, I'm going to predict that it's going to be like that 2 is going to be the amount that is because I put 2 in there. But on Carlos' turn, you can do things to remove cards from exhibitions. You can add another 2, and it can screw up my prediction. So you're having to make predictions based on the information you are contributing to them, but also not knowing what else is going to happen before the turn comes back to you. That's the most I'm going to get into the rules. All that to say, I'm going to just right from the front say that I want to dig in on this game, and that's based on the fact that after playing it twice, every time I've played it, I've wanted to play it again. Even like I would have been down to play it immediately right at that session. It hits all the Knizia things that I love. I shouldn't say all, like every game has its own things, but like a lot of the Knizia-esque things you expect from Knizia games that we've come to love about Knizia games are here and they're present. I love how grueling some of the decisions are. The amount of times that when we played, in both games that I've played, the amount of times that almost on everybody's turn, no one has like a clear move. No one's just like, yeah, I'm adding 2 to this exhibition. Like you're like, oh, like I want to add 1 there, but like, what are you gonna do that? Like,
and there's always a reaction. As soon as someone plays a card, there's either like yes or oh, are you kidding me?
Yes, exactly. And the predictions are just as grueling. Like to then try to make a prediction, being like, well, yeah, there's 7 already in that exhibition, so I feel safe even making a prediction that it's going to be 5 or more. The fact of the matter is, yes, that looks safe, but there's been times where because things can be removed from the exhibitions as well, that you never really know, and people are more incentivized to screw up your predictions, especially when you make the bolder predictions. Yeah. So if you predict that there's going to be 8 or more, the chances that you make that prediction and someone else before it comes back to you, especially if you're playing like a full 5-player game, that when it comes back to you, that someone's not going to be like, well, there's no way I'm going to let that slide and him get all those points from that big prediction.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do something to remove one, or whatever the case may be. Or if they made like a lower prediction, like of 1, then I'm going to add some because I have the cards in my hand. Why would I let him get those 3 points, right?
Yeah.
So I want to dig in. I really love it. I really have nothing else to say on it. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, so again, keep in mind it's almost a full year ago that I played this, but I played it at the local convention here at Gamatoba, and I had a lot of fun too, and this is absolutely one I want to dig into. Yeah. I will say I can feel enough about the first impression that it's not going to live up to the heights of like modern art, but that's like an impossible. Yeah, that's not at all to degrade this game. Yeah. But just to put it into context, because we probably sound really excited about it, and we are. It's really, really good. Yep. And the last thing I'll say is the thing that you mentioned about the Knizia, what has like the Knizia DNA in it to me is the same thing that you get in games like Battle Line, Lost Cities, and Modern Art, where you are forced to commit to something when you want to get more information first before committing.
Yes.
So you're basically having to make an investment, being like, I don't know what's out there. Can I just wait? And the second you show your card, you show your hand, people know your intentions, and then everyone else is trying to tank your investment. So you don't know what to invest in because you know everyone's going to try and ruin it, and that's why it's like, what do I? Love it. Really, really good first impression. So we'll definitely be digging into that one.
Yep, for sure.
And what, 2 to 4 players, I think, but probably best 3 or 4. Did it go to 5?
I'm trying to remember. I thought it did go to 5. Okay. You know, I got it right here, and it's 5.
Oh, it is awesome.
No. I don't have my glasses on. It's 4 or 5, and I can't see it right now because it's really small. But
I can't see
with 4 or 5 players, you can play this game.
We'll put a correction on screen maybe, but probably not something that would excel at 2 even if it plays at 2.
Yes, yeah.
All right, next one?
Yeah, next one.
Marabunta, another game from Reiner Knizia. This is a 2-player only game that was I think it's technically listed as a 2023 release, but I believe only reached North America early this year, 2024. So this is basically a 2-player only roll and write game, and Knizia has done some roll and writes, but this is the first one we've played. Yeah. A lot of his other ones are like classic, like roll dice with numbers and put numbers in slots and stuff like that. Yeah. So in this one, it is basically an I split you choose game. And one of the things I love most about this is that we're playing together on a dry erase board map, and that we don't have, or no, I guess we do have our own little personal boards where you're checking off your little things with the ants and the cupcakes. I won't get too much into the theme, but the idea is you roll some dice, and then you have to separate those dice into 2 piles. And I can't remember if it's 5 dice in a tile, or I think it is, right? Yeah. So it's 5 dice in a tile. So the piles are never going to be equal because you can do like 3 dice and then 2 dice in the tile, and these tiles, they get shuffled randomly at the beginning and they have a different ability. So sometimes you can be like, you have to make the piles and then your opponent gets to pick one first, and then they activate these or put little things or color in spots on the board, and there's basically little area majority battles, and you have little like sort of like multiplicative scoring things with your ants and your cupcakes on your board, and you're basically just trying to battle over this area control thing. But the I split you choose is so, again, we talk about the agonizing decisions that Knizia gives you. You roll these dice and you're like, I don't want to give them either of these piles. And like, you try to make one that you think isn't going to be tempting to them. And the second, like, I'll take those. You're like, oh, what? Why did I put that 1 die in that pile? Why did I give you the tile? Or sometimes you try something bold, or 5 dice for in one, and you put the tile because you're like, I know you need the other one. You're going to leave me those dice. So you're trying to tempt, but also keep something for yourself that's really good. Yeah. Definitely a dig in from me. I think we played it twice, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And I'm very eager to explore it more. Definitely the most interactive roll and write I think I've played. And the fact that it's 2-player only and it's area majority on a map is like, Knizia, I don't know how you do it, man. Yeah, it's a dig in for me as well. I really have enjoyed this game. I hesitate to say love yet because I have to play it more, but tons of fun. And yeah, the splitting up of the dice and the tile, that's probably my favorite part of the game because of how agonizing those decisions are. But I just like also the ways you interact with the board, and and you're writing different numbers down and then calculating like the full score of different regions to see who wins that region, and having to put weight into how many points you actually get for winning a region. So like you can give up like a region and be like, I'm not even going to fight over that because currently it's only worth such a minimal amount of points. I can try to then, depending on how the dice roll, try to like influence how many points that region is worth. But like if the dice don't roll in my favor, there might not be any way for me to influence that to be worth more points. So it's an interesting mechanic, and it makes it so that every game does have a bit of a different feel and expectation to it, and I've just really enjoyed it. Dig in for sure for me. What you just described goes back to the classic art thing. If you have to commit before you know how much that area is going to be worth. So do you commit or do you wait? And do you influence an area to be worth more and then find out later that you can't keep up with it when you've given those points away? Exactly. Yeah, that's great. Very well done. Yeah, we'll talk about it more.
Yeah. Next one up, Lord of the Rings Duel, also back here somewhere.
Duel
right
for
there.
Middle Earth.
Yes, Duel for Middle Earth. I'm just gonna call it Duel.
Yeah,
I can't. I can't keep up with all these words.
Where did this game come from? What does it play off of, Dylan?
So it plays off of Seven Wonders Duel, which has been on my top 10 of all time for a long time. One of my favorite two-player. I think it's still my favorite two-player only game. And I love Seven Wonders Duel, and Lord of the Rings Duel takes a lot of the same elements from Seven Wonders Duel, like a lot, but also changes a surprising amount. But everything it changes is stuff that we would mostly agree that is, or sort of not necessarily flaws in the original, but just like the lesser things of the original, things that weren't quite as great, or things that were like, I like that game, but this sometimes always kind of like is problematic, or this makes things less interesting. It's almost like they made a list of like all the things that were that was the case for Seven Wonders Duel, and said, how can we make these more interesting? Even something that I never would have thought of, like the wonders that you pick at the start of Seven Wonders Duel, where you have this drafting system and you end up with 4 wonders, and the max you can make in a game is 7 total, which means one player will complete 4 wonders, one player will complete 3. They've now taken that away from a setup thing to make you get into the game quicker, and that actually happens during the game. They're available to be able to basically choose instead of picking a card from the pyramid system, which I never even necessarily would have looked at the original and said, oh, that wonder system needs to be changed. I had thoughts on it, but the way that they just said we're going to take that and put it into the game has made it way more interesting. It's way better like this, and I won't get into every single specific instance in this video because spoiler alert, this is a dig in for me. But they've just like made everything more interesting. We finished one session, and that's all we played is the one time, and I would confidently say that like unless something drastically changes my opinion on it playing it more, which is definitely possible, that's why we're digging in, I just don't know how it wouldn't replace Seven Wonders Duel for me. It's just, in my opinion, it seems like it's just going to be a better version of that game, right?
Yeah, I'll say a couple things. One is the theme. The artwork from Vincent Dutrait, as always, is just like stunning. And if you like Lord of the Rings, then this is a no-brainer. The track with Frodo trying to get to Mount Doom, and you've got the Knight Rider chasing you or whatever, is just awesome. It's really like just the way the component works. It's very tactile, very interesting, very visually. Just it makes sense. And the main board where you have these kind of little mini area control things with the soldiers as well as the towers, and how that ends up being the deciding factor of if it goes the distance and you draw through the whole deck, right?
Yeah.
So I just like the way that they still have ways that you can win the game immediately or have it come down to a deciding factor at the end. We'll talk more about the money system when we review it, because the money system is very interesting how they've changed it. And I will just say I really like the changes, but I've heard some people don't like the changes. But we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, the last thing I'll mention with it is just to give one more example of how like they're changing is like my favorite part of Seven Wonders Duel, I think, over the amount of times I played, is the fact that there's multiple win conditions. So every game you don't know exactly when it's going to end, how it's going to end, and there's different ways you can kind of like claw back a victory if you're really falling behind in, say, points or something. In this game, they've changed like every victory condition aside from the sciences from Seven Wonders Duel is now sort of the races of Middle Earth and the factions of Middle Earth that you're trying to get favor from. But like the push and pull for war victory or military victory in Seven Wonders Duel is no longer just like pushing something back and forth. It's literally like little mini area control game, which is way more interesting. And the points that have been essentially eliminated, and now that's become the ring tracker, where it's like the Frodo and Sam trying to reach Mount Doom, and they're being chased by I can't remember the name of the character that they're being chased by. Knight Rider. And so like even just stuff like that is a great example. Like they've taken something and said like, yeah, we could have just left it where you collect points and you see who has the most points at the end of the game, or we could do this thing where now it's thematically who can catch either Frodo and Sam first, or can they get to Mount Doom first and drop the ring in. So way more interesting, way more thematic, and just way more fun to interact with, in my opinion.
Yeah, so there's no question it's a dig in for me as well. And just for reference for people who might not know, I don't like Seven Wonders Duel anywhere near as much as Dylan, and I totally understand why you do and why a lot of people do. But for me, my first impression was that why would I ever play the original Seven Wonders Duel again? However, I will add one caveat. If my one hesitation, I think we talked about this after the game, it was really, really close, and it felt like it came down to the wire. And I know a lot of people like it when every game you play comes down to the wire. I want to see if this has more like volatility to the results. If we played it 20 times and it always came down to the very end and it was always super close, I actually don't like that.
Right.
I want to be able to, whether it's me winning or losing, I want to see if the game can end in the second era or whatever, because I think it's more interesting and it makes your decisions feel more meaningful if you can be like, oh, I misplayed there and they really capitalized on it, rather than no matter what we do, we're always going to go the distance and it's always going to feel tight. So I don't know how it's going to shake out after more plays, but that's why we really want to dig in and play it more. But very positive first impressions, and it definitely exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. All right, let's move on and talk about Wild Tiled West next. So this is a 2023 release. It's a polyomino game that plays 2 to 5 players, I believe. Maybe, I don't know, there's a solo mode as well. So it's designed by Paul Dennen, who's best known for Clank, Dune Imperium, and Dune Imperium Uprising. So are all, like, these are games that are very highly regarded, high in the top 100 games. And this is also published by Direwolf, who did the Dune Imperium games. So I won't get into too much of the rules because it's a very involved polyomino game. It's one of the most involved polyomino games I've played. A little too involved, a little mini spoiler there. But it's like a straight up like medium. The rule book is more pages than Dune Imperium, I believe, and has more rules than Dune Imperium, and probably even more than Clank. I haven't played Clank in a while, but you are drafting tiles. You roll these dice at the beginning of the round. There's these prairie dice as well as river dice, and there's a certain number you roll based on player count, and then you put them into these slots, and it takes up the table space. Like, even just playing 2 players, it took up almost my entire table. It was pretty ridiculous in that sense. And it's an expensive game. Like, this is like an $80 or $90 game.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah, I know. We got it on the AYCB credit card. So But and it's just very involved. Everyone has their own map. You're getting tiles that have all kinds of things like sheriffs and bandits and bullets, and you are basically trying to position the sheriffs in a way that they can shoot their bullets at bandits on your board, but you have to actually, there's other tiles that you can, so some of the tiles are just polyominoes and they don't do anything, but there's other ones that are buildings that have special abilities. There's a bunch of unique ones. So there's some of them that allow you to fire or give you bullets. So you're trying to like do this little puzzle where everything feels like it has to line up, and you want to shoot them, but if there's a cow standing in between the sheriff and the bandit, then the bullet doesn't get to the bandit. It hits the cow first instead, but the cow doesn't die or anything. You have gold nuggets and areas that you're trying to fill on your board. I'll kind of leave it at that for the overview because it's, like I said, it's very involved. We played this once together about 2 months ago, maybe even more recently, and I've already forgotten some of the rules, clearly. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, this is one I'm ready to move on from, because the only polyomino games I've played, maybe even just one, the only polyomino game that comes to mind right now that is more involved, that has more rules, is A Feast for Odin. And A Feast for Odin is way better than this game and is not that much more expensive. And then all the other games, I think, that are lighter in rules or, whatever, like they all are more rewarding without having the barrier of the rule set for me. Like even things like Planet Unknown, the Grand Carnival, like those are like fairly expensive games still, but they're easier to get into, and if you put them on the shelf, you're not going to forget all the rules. So there's some cool ideas, but this just felt like they tried to make it too much of a gamer game too advanced, and I wish they had cut out like 30 to 40% of the stuff, and maybe it would have felt streamlined and more engaging, but it just felt like too excessive. And again, for the price point, it's hard to justify it, even though the components are nice.
Honestly, the components and the way that, I hesitate to say table presence because one of my criticisms is the same, how much it takes up on the table. But table presence in the sense like how it all looks and the artwork, and, it looks great. But I would say that it's a move on for me as well, mostly because one, the best way I can sum it up is it was just a forgettable experience. I didn't leave it being I'm in tune more with if a game is forgettable for me and I remember little about it. It's a lot of times because nothing excited me while I was playing it in a way that I was like, remember that? Like, we've played so many polyomino games. It's not that I'm closed off to the idea of complicated polyomino games. It's just that I almost think that when it hits a certain length or a certain complexity, I just am less interested in them, or it has to really do something new and unique with those polyominoes to hook me. Wild Wild West, it was too long, it was too complicated, and I don't mean too complicated that like, just for the type of game it was too complicated, took up too much table space, and even though I had a good time with some of the mechanics, I didn't have enough fun with the overall package for me to be like, yeah, let's set that up again and play a whole session of it again. There's other polyomino games I'd rather play. I'd rather play Face Rodent again.
Well, I was gonna say, how many polyomino games do we actively play that take longer than 45 minutes or that cost more than $50?
Yeah.
Feast Rodent. It's the only one.
Yeah, right.
So like this isn't going to change. This doesn't do enough to change that for us.
Yeah, and to be honest, I felt that about. I feel like that's the hurdle. I love polyomino games, but it is one of those genres of board games that I'm a little bit more picky about. Like, and I noticed that even with like Planet Unknown and stuff like that too. Is just
I won't say much because I'm reviewing.
Yeah.
If like, the review hasn't already come out by now.
But some of those complexity things is just Anyways, it's a move on for me. I'm fine to not come back to Wild.
Yeah. So you won't hear us talk about this probably ever again on the channel. I mean, it might come up some random thing, but we're not going to be reviewing it. All right, take it away. Next game here.
Sail is the next game. This is a little cooperative trick-taking game. You're playing tricks.
2 players.
Two-player only cooperative trick-taking game. You're playing your cards and playing your tricks in order to cooperatively move across this like ocean, I guess is what the board is representing. And there's different obstacles that can come in there. You can have different ways of moving. The cards that you play will have different icons on them that I won't know which one Carlo is going to play. He won't know which one I'm going to play, and depending on the combination of those icons that show up on the cards, different things will happen in terms of how it moves the ship, how you add stuff to, what's the deck called that you're adding?
The Kraken deck. Tell them about the Kraken. I was going to say.
The Kraken.
There's some obstacles.
You tell them about the Kraken.
It's the Kraken deck. This Kraken is basically, its tentacles are all over the place, and you're trying to basically get from one end to the other, avoiding the Kraken, but depending on the scenario you pick, sometimes you have to do a certain amount of damage or like defeat the Kraken or just get to the end kind of thing.
Yeah. So I've learned that I like trick-taking games. I don't love them, but games like The Crew, I really do love. So I would say that it really comes down to how novel the way that they use trick-taking is, or how much longevity I think that game has for me to come back to it. Because trick-taking is such a novel, or such a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a concept that usually means that the game is going to play quickly and is kind of like a really fun. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is
there's some mind reading. It's like there's some telepathy too, of like reacting, trying to predict and anticipate.
The deduction is what I was trying to get at.
And the hand management. Do I save this card because it's going to be better later?
Yes, the deduction element of like what I have versus what my partners on the table have or what my opponents have around the table is something I really enjoy with trick-taking games. That being said, one thing I'll say about Sail is that even though it was definitely novel and compared to other ones I played and interesting and fun to play, we played the first, not the prologue scenario, the intro scenario. We played scenario 1, and then we immediately played it again, and we jumped like to the second last scenario. There's
an intro and 5. We beat number 1, and then we said let's go to number 4.
Yeah, so we jumped right to the end, and that my worry for a game like this is I think there's only, like you said, there's only 5 scenarios in there. Even though it was fun, it's not so fun or so much more interesting than The Crew or other trick-taking games I played, like Fox in the Forest and stuff like that, that I would be like, oh man, I can't wait to play Sail again. And even if I did, once we beat scenario 4 and 5, especially the last one, I will personally have no incentive to go back and play it because it's not a game that I liked so much that I don't need the scenario aspect, and I just want to play it to see if I can keep beating scenario 5. So I'm saying it's a move on for me. I'll probably play it. I'd be happy to play it once more and to see how much harder Scenario 5 is. But I didn't feel so motivated that I actually I need to beat Scenario 4 and beat Scenario 5. I am totally fine with not playing it again. So I'm personally ready to move on from it. But I'd welcome another play of it if it came up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one other thing I want to mention real quick is different from a game like Fox in the Forest Duet. That game, the cards have all kinds of different abilities, the actual trick-taking cards you're playing. And this one, they have little icons and they do different things, but the uniqueness of the cards and the asymmetry kind of comes into play because each player has a special character. So one person, I don't remember if they have names, if it's just the pirate and the whatever, but they have something that kind of breaks a rule of the game and makes you play it very differently. I think there's 6 in the base game. So that's where some of the variability comes into play, and that's even just from playing Scenario 1 and 4, they felt very different. just based on that alone.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I agree, that alone is not enough for, like, if I play it again, yeah, I'll try the other roles, but if I beat scenario 4 or 5, I don't want to play that same scenario just trying different roles. I didn't like the game enough to want to just like keep playing and playing. So I agree with you. I'm usually the type that, like, if I beat a co-op game, it has to meet a really high bar for me to want to revisit it.
Yeah.
I'm leaning more towards dig in, but it's dig in more that, like, I definitely do want to play scenario 4 and 5, only because we got destroyed in scenario 4.
Yeah.
We got wrecked by the Kraken so early, and we went, oh, we'd have to approach that differently. First, like, scenario 1 was a lot easier, so that's what's compelling me to bring it back, is like, how many attempts would it take to beat scenario 4 and 5? But then as soon as we scenario 5, it either goes into the sell pile or whatever, and I guess, and the fact that it's on Board Game Arena will make it easier if we don't want to spend the time meeting up to play it, right?
I guess, yeah, that would be where I guess we differ, is that, and it's hard to even exactly explain why it is for me, but we got destroyed in scenario 4, and I didn't leave feeling like, I've got to beat that scenario 4. Like, I can't wait to be. I would honestly, like, thinking about sitting down to play. I mean, I know it's different because this is 2-player only, but I'd be much more interested in going back and doing all the scenarios I haven't done for Mission Deep Sea in the crew than I would be to try to beat scenario 4 and 5 and sail.
Well, I agree too, but we're not playing the crew at 2 players. We're playing that at 3+.
Yeah, that's the difference, is the player count. But it's just like, I guess what I'm saying is I'd rather play a different 2-player game or find another person to be able to play the crew than I would to say, okay, let's beat the sail. Let's beat sail. I just didn't leave with a strong enough impression to be motivated to be like, I want to beat these. If it's a game that's like suggested or we're going to play, I'm not going to turn it down. But I'm not thinking I'm ready to dig in and beat these scenarios. I've left it.
That's fair. Yeah. And the other thing I'll say is just, I think it's like almost double the cost of the crew, and that's a hard
sell.
That's a hard sell, because there's no way that this game is going to give you more value. I mean, unless for some reason you just bounce off the crew or theme or art. Like, the artwork from Weberson Santiago is awesome. Like, really nice presentation, small box and stuff. I think this is something that if you have a dedicated gaming partner and you haven't played a lot of trick-taking games, I think that's who will get the most value. If you've played tons of trick-taking games, I don't think you're going to, like, love this or play it a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so I'll say dig in. Maybe I'll play it with Braden if you don't want to, or I'll play it with someone else on BGA or something.
I'm sure I could do another session on BGA, because that's something that won't. Yeah, it would be easier to orchestrate putting that together. Yeah. But
But it might be a while before we cover it on the channel though, because we might not come back to it right away.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. All right, take it away. Next game.
That was
no,
me.
It's me. Sorry. Sorry, that is me. Patterns. So this is a 2-player. We got a lot of 2-player only games in this. So this is a 2-player only game that I believe came out in 2023, maybe 2022. I can't remember. And it is by the same designers who did Mandala, and it's actually called Patterns: a Mandala game. I think. I don't know if it's official on Board Game Arena, but I'm not gonna. We played this 3 times, I think, in the same day that we learned it. We played 3 times in a row, and now it's been a few months, so I'm not going to remember exactly all the rules, but similar to Mandala, you've got these 6 colors, and everyone starts with a kind of token that is kind of your, I don't even remember what you call it. Let's call it your primary token or whatever. It's your initiative token or something. It starts in
your little bowl there or whatever.
Yeah, you have it in your little bowl, and there's this kind of grid. It's kind of like a cross with all these little circles, and at the beginning of the game, you kind of dump out these tiles, and you just kind of put all these circular tiles on the board. It's kind of this really nice little cloth mat similar to Mandala. And then you take turns, and it's a game of like swapping things around. So you're using your kind of initiative token to place something somewhere on the board, and every time you place that one, you're taking a different one back. And you've got these things where you're connecting things, and the idea is these tokens can either be face up or face down. And as soon as you lock one into your board, similar to Mandala style, from slots like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, you're basically assigning that every blue token I have control of at the end of the game is going to be worth 1 point. Okay, now my slot 2, 3, 4, whatever, my slot number 4 has a black token. All my black tokens at the end that I control are going to be worth 4 points. So you're kind of investing, going back to the Knizia stuff, investing in colors while we can both still focus on manipulating them. So there's this interesting sort of spatial visual puzzle where you're trying to plan in advance and tank other people's points and flip tokens that block them from chaining out. I'll let you jump in here.
Because you want, if I remember correctly, you want to, like, say blue is in my 2 slot or whatever, like, to score for blue, they have to all be orthogonally, I don't think it's diagonally, adjacent to where you started. So that's where you can block your opponents based on like where colors currently exist, because on your turn you're either declaring that I'm going to like put one of my like number tokens to say this is going to slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, and lock in blue for that slot, or you're flipping a tile like on the board to essentially like lock that into position and score for it. But so as you're taking stuff out of your like, again, we're forgetting the names of the terminology here, but like the bowl that you start with, where you start with one of your colored tokens in there, as you start to flip those out, some of the colors will change positions, and you're trying to influence the board in a way where you can score the max amount of points for your high value ones, your 4s, your 5s, and your 6s and stuff like that. So the game is very like thinking in a fun way, where like you're like, how do I score points, but how do I block what I see my opponent doing? What do I do on my turn? Because you have to do one or the other. Am I flipping one of these tiles because I don't want him to influence it before I get those points for it, or am I locking this in? There's just, it's the reason we played it like so many times in that one session was because it was quick playing, and it was just really fun. We're like, we got to go again, kind of thing. Yeah.
And the first game, we probably felt like it was a little bit opaque. Like, what am I doing exactly? And then someone did a move, and you're like, I see what you did there. And you're like, oh, and you keep like the first play is like you kind of just pulling levers, seeing what happens, and then it slowly reveals itself. The theme is like not nonsense, but it's purely abstract like mandala, but it's so thinky, and the more you play, you just keep going, oh, I never thought of doing things this way. Oh, and you can kind of survey. I love surveying the map at the start and looking like, okay, there's all these blues here, the oranges, there's a pack of yellows. Where am I gonna It's very strategic from the start, but also tactical throughout. Really, really, really enjoyed this game like a lot.
Yeah. I think it's a move on for. Or sorry, it's a move on for us after we love it. It's a dig in for both of us. The one comparison I'll make too, especially for those who have played Mandala, I've made this comparison before. Is it like if you enjoyed Mandala, but specifically if you enjoyed the river aspect, where you have the 6 numbers and you're kind of locking in specific colors to it and saying this is going to be the color that scores me 5 points, but I only score my opponent 1 point, and how does that influence how we interact with the board? If you enjoyed that part from Mandala, that is present in Patterns. That's in the DNA of Patterns, in the same way that Castle of Tuscany and Burgundy are different games, but the DNA of Burgundy is in Tuscany, so that if there's things about the mechanics and systems and scoring that you like, it's present there. That's kind of how it's not that you're guaranteed to like Patterns because you like Mandala, but if you like the river system and you like each color kind of being designated as a different point for each opponent, that is present, that's still here, that's just as fun as ever, and that's something that like I loved in Mandala. And as soon as I saw that was still in Patterns, I was like, on some level I'm gonna like this game because I love that mechanic.
Yeah,
so.
and this is already one of the best 2-player games in my opinion that has been released in the last like 5 years. Like it's really, really good.
Bold statement.
I stand by it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, I think I agree, but I like bold statements.
I'll confirm this when we review it, but right now, this is the best 2-player only game I've played since Great Plains, which was my 2021 game of the year.
Say that one more time. So I want to confirm. Say that one more time.
Okay. Currently, this is the best 2-player only game that I've played that has been released since Great Plains, which was my 2021 game of the year.
Yeah, so you heard it here first. Patterns is better than Great Plains.
Not better, just kidding. But it's better than the other 2-player. It's better than Marabunta, it's better than Lord of the Rings Duel, and it's better than Sail, in my opinion.
Okay, that's bold,
I
might agree.
This is a shared copy, and if one of you guys ends up taking it, I'm buying my own. Like this, I need to own this game.
Yeah. It would be close with like Lord of the Rings Duel and some of the other ones I've played, but like I agree, there's a good chance that out of all those and out of all the 2-player games I've played, 2-player only games I've played in the last while, that it ends up topping that list. Because I know I felt stronger about Mandala, I think, than you did.
Yes.
But that's how I felt even about Mandala after playing multiple times. It was like, wow, this is a top 2-player game for me now, and I think I like Patterns more than Mandala.
I do, for sure.
But I'll have to play more to know for sure.
Yeah. Great game. And it's like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's why you played it so many times in one setting.
Again, that's why I compared to Great Plains and Caesar have that like 20 minutes, and you're like, how did I get that much enjoyment out of a 20-minute game with a couple pages of rules?
Also,
but the rulebook's not good. Oh my god, it was so misleading. It's like 3 pages, and we had to keep going online to clarify stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna advocate here on the channel for better and improved rulebooks or translations of rulebooks or whatever, and player aids always. Not in this game, but I just mean in general, player aids for players.
I might write an updated rulebook for Patterns and put it on BGG because I don't want that to deter people from playing this. It's so good.
But yeah, it's a dig in for both of us. Love it.
Awesome. Take it away.
Kelp is the next one, which is also a 2-player only game. It's an
Shark versus Octopus.
Yes, because there might be. It's weird to me. I'm not even gonna answer that. It's weird to me that there's this colon because it makes it seem like there's gonna be another kelp, but I'm like, but then you're restricted to the ocean and 2 sea creatures against each other. Anyways, Kelp is a 2-player asymmetrical game that I've seen talked about a lot, and I think a lot of people were anticipating it. And it had a pretty good successful Kickstarter or a crowdfunding campaign. So we played this once. You played the shark, I played the octopus. Each one plays very differently. That's the thing. So there's this shared board that we're each interacting with. I have one side, Carlo has his own side, but the main center of the board is shared. But we're each interacting with it differently. Carlo, our session of the game as the shark, is moving around the currents and putting these little mini dice onto the currents to be able to actually figure out how he's going to be allowed to move through the currents in order to try to catch me as the octopus. He doesn't always know where I am. Sometimes he will know where I am. And that's because my way of interacting with the board is I have these really nice tiles that are either going to be face towards me, where only I can see what's on the tile and Carlo on the opposite end of the table can't see, or they're going to be flipped face up, essentially, where now it's completely public knowledge what is on them. One of them is the octopus, which is me. That's what he's trying to find and catch. Other ones are different food items that I'm trying to consume, which is my victory condition, because that's the other thing.
Or your tentacles, right?
Yes, exactly. So like the victory condition for each of us is different. You're trying to catch me as the octopus. I'm trying to evade, but that's not how I win by evading. I have to try to consume all 4 different food items that come out on this like card system for me. And again, I'm not gonna get super into the rules, only to say is that like, yes, that's asymmetrical, but also like it's asymmetrical to the point where like if I were to go now and play the shark and you were to play the octopus, I'd have to like go and refresh the rules because it's a completely different rule set of how you play the game. Like the way your turn goes is very different from how my turn goes, even though we have like a shared common goal or common board that we're interacting with. The other thing is when you catch the octopus as the shark, it doesn't just immediately end the game. There's like sort of this like rock, paper, scissors system that means that it could end on that first capture, but it's possible it might not end until the second or third capture, so it keeps things a little bit exciting knowing that like you might have to try to capture that octopus more than once. So there's a lot like more complexity to the rules, but it just would take too long to get into here. All that to say is that this, having played it once, is a dig in for me, and that is for a couple of reasons. One, I haven't played the shark yet, and the shark looks just as interesting and worth digging into as the octopus does. But two, I haven't even played the octopus once. I definitely wasn't playing optimally. There's things I discovered while playing that I'm like, oh, right, like I should be doing this, or oh, actually I shouldn't have revealed this tile this way. And all those things didn't feel tedious or something like, yeah, I didn't play optimally, but I don't want to explore again. Like there were things that I encountered that I thought, this will be so much fun to explore more and to get better at, especially as my opponent is potentially getting better at being the shark if I'm being the octopus. Yeah. But then on top of that, I want to also then flip the script, play the shark, and learn how to play well as the shark. And once I've done that, I feel like me knowing how the shark plays best as the octopus will change how I play the octopus as well. So there's enough that I had fun with in this game that there's so much to dig into, and I feel excited about digging into those things.
Cool. Yeah. It's definitely a dig in for me as well, but I don't think I'm quite as high on it as you so far. But keep in mind, we played different roles, first off. Yep. And I think, so the couple things I'll say. One is that it's only been about a month or two since we've played, and I've already forgotten a decent amount of like the rules in terms of like, well, how does my turn structure work and stuff. So I feel like we'll have to refresh on the rules, and that kind of like sort of, I guess, represents like my biggest concern with the game long term is, I don't know if I don't think it's going to rise to like one of my favorite 2-player games ever. And if it's not going to be one that I pull off the shelf frequently, if it comes off the shelf once, twice a year, we're gonna have to refresh on the rules every time. Sure. And that might be a barrier because if I don't remember the rules, it's like, oh, well then again, we will just resort to playing Great Plains or Mandala or Patterns or whatever instead, Battle Line, Lost Cities. There's so many good 2-player games that are, you never forget the rules, they stick. Yep. This, because like credit to the designer, Carl Robinson, I think it's his first design, it feels very thematic, and it feels very, like, I feel like the shark when I'm playing. I feel like you are the octopus, and that simulation comes through really well, but sometimes the accuracy or level of depth or whatever of a simulation sacrifices the smoothness of gameplay a little bit, and I don't know if that's just a barrier for the first time playing and learning the game, but that's where my only concern comes in. I do want to play it at least 1 or 2 more times as the shark, and at least 2 or 3 times as the octopus, so that's already enough of a like positive, like I definitely like the game. It's a solid, really well designed game, and the art, same art as Sail, really like beautiful art, really nice components. See, we got the standard edition. Yeah. We almost went in for the all in, and we got the standard.
The components are really awesome. Nice too, like the tiles
exactly.
and everything like that. Yeah. So it sounds like it's a dig in, but there's like almost a limit. Like you dig in because there's so much to see, but once you dig in, I agree that out of all the 2-player games that we love and want to come back to and stuff, how often are we going to choose choose Kelp, and
The Kelp?
the Kelp. How often are we going to choose the Kelp? And you're right, if we don't choose it often enough, how much are we going to have to refresh? How much is that going to be a barrier for entry? Just based on how we play games and our availability to play games and how often we can play games to players. Like, yeah, it's going to be a hard sell if after I've played both, potentially, to be like, let's get together, we have an hour, let's play a 2-player game, to be like, are we really going to choose Kelp? Like, once we've both seen both factions, are we going to choose Kelp over patterns?
Or
right?
even if we want something asymmetric, like Santorini is going to win out over Kelp for me,
Every
right?
time,
So like, it feels like one that we'll play maybe 5 to 10 times, review it on the channel, and then once it goes back on the shelf, who knows if it's going to come back down until it potentially goes away from our collection. So the last thing I want to ask you real quick, and this is something we can think about ongoing until we review it, is I've read some concerns online about it not being balanced, about the shark versus the octopus. Personally, that never bothers me in a game because I like playing both sides and having the challenge of like the David versus Goliath or pulling off the upset, and like our enjoyment of games isn't determined by whether we win or lose. So for me, it doesn't bother me. How do you feel about that? Would that be a concern if it felt unbalanced going forward?
I think it would
whether
be
in the power, or the fun even of each side.
I think I'd be concerned if I was playing Kelp regularly with like my partner, like I do with a game like Patchwork, for instance. If I was playing it regularly and we found that whoever was playing the shark won like 90% of the time, then it would be problematic to me, because every time we go to it, it would be like whoever you just as the octopus. Yes, you can have the aspect of like, can I win as the octopus? But if it's so unbalanced that it's just like the odds are stacked, then I'm gonna start gravitating towards something where it feels like we don't have to like
house rule it or something.
Yeah. So I think it depends how unbalanced. If we're talking like, shark wins 55% of the time, octopus wins 45% of the time, that doesn't bother me at all. If we're talking 75-25, like that's something that I think there's a limit to how much I'll come back to it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think we both would agree that it's something you ideally want to play with the same person, because if you play it 5 times and you introduce it to someone new, they're going to feel lost compared to you.
Yeah, this is one of those games you get when you have a partner you play regularly with, or you have roommates, or you have friends you get together with to play 2-player only games regularly, because you're revisiting the same game and you're both getting better at it, right? Not introducing to a new person every time, and you are like getting better as the octopus, and they're learning the shark every time, right? Yeah.
Cool.
All right, next one.
So we are going to dig in. But we might not dig too deep, who knows?
Yes.
All right, so next one is Raising Robots. So this was a 2023 release, I believe very early in the year, a game that goes from 1 to 6 players, I want to say. And it is basically I always say it's kind of like a hybrid Race for the Galaxy meets Wingspan. So the idea is you are assembling robots with different parts that you get, like batteries and gears and whatever, all kinds of stuff. And the way it works is there's a lot of the game happens simultaneously. So at the start, there's 5 possible actions. There's assemble, upgrade, and then there's, I don't remember what the other ones are called, produce and whatever. And the idea is we're each going to pick 2 cards that we want those action phases to trigger for us. We're going to put them down in secret. And I should say there's also a little mini draft setup thing at the start to give us some asymmetry. Each person is going to have a different inventor that goes into your board that gives you a unique power, or a unique way that you play the game. And you're also going to start with a robot in one of your slots on the board that gives you some starting kind of like ability when that phase might trigger. But anyways, we're going to when we're all ready, we flip our action cards, and there's a board where I won't get into the nitty-gritty of it because it takes a bit, but the idea is we're going to place things on there to indicate which actions are going to be available to all of us along with our private actions. And then we're going to go, okay, and we all do this next part simultaneously. The first time you play, you can do it together and be like, okay, can anyone assemble? And you'd be like, no, I can't assemble. What about you? Yeah. So everyone goes assemble. Then you go in order to the next phase. Okay, can anyone upgrade? Yeah, I can upgrade. Upgrading is basically every robot card that you play has 2 possible abilities. At the start, it has only 1 at the top, which is the weaker version. And then once you upgrade it, it unlocks the option to use it for its top or bottom ability. You can never use both. And then after that, then you go to the other 3 phases. And the next 3 I won't go into. They're all fairly similar. They just have different kind of resources that they lean into, or different kind of themes a little bit. But these basically activate in a similar way as Wingspan, except instead of going right to left, they go left to right. So if I assemble a robot, and they're all colored, like all the purple robots go in one row, all the orange, and then all the green, and you're basically going left, right. okay, do I have enough energy to trigger this one? Yes, I activate this ability. Okay, now I go over here, I activate this ability, then we go to the next phase. So you're basically just running through and you play 8 rounds of this, and so throughout the game you're building out, and so it's a combo game where you're trying to find synergies where like maybe I have 2 robots that give me a lot of this one resource, and then I have this other robot that allows me to convert those resources into points. Or I have a way to get more energy so that I can do those things on my board that require a lot more energy. Yeah, why don't you jump in here?
So did you make the comparison, or do you mention that it's sort of like almost kind of this hybrid mechanical system that's like Wingspan and Race for the Galaxy? Yeah, so like my thing with this game is that I really like the mechanic that's present in Race for the Galaxy, present in this and other games that I'm forgetting now, where you privately choose the action you're going to take, and that influences what other people are going to be able to take, but you get a better version of that action if you chose it, things like that. I like that system. We've played in many games with it. I'm really a big fan of it. Raising robots, for the complexity that it involves, and somehow with that mechanic mixed with the Wingspan mechanic, the full complexity, the length of the game, and the overall fun I had playing it, nothing about it made me be like, I am excited to especially after we've gone in a period of time without having played it, and I'd have to refresh on rules and stuff like that. Nothing about me feels super excited to do that. I'm not necessarily excited to get back into raising robots, because all the bits and pieces I do remember of it, nothing stands out as being like so engaging, so fun, so exciting to me that I'm like, I want to engage with that mechanic. I want to learn more about that strategy. I want to see if I can do better in this regard. It was okay. It wasn't bad, but I guess I'm no longer super interested in a game that's just okay, exploring it more, unless there's something that really is like stuck in my brain that I'm like, that was okay, but like this could make it amazing. Nothing about Raising Robots really left me with that impression. And to be honest, I'm not the biggest Race for the Galaxy fan, but I'd be much more interested in playing Race for the Galaxy than I would be playing.
Oh, sign me up. Okay, we're going to play Race for the Galaxy at least 20 times this year. Right. You heard it here first, folks. He's on board.
That's basically how I feel. It's like, give me a shorter version of a game that has this give me Glass Road, give me Race for the Galaxy over Raising Robots every time. That could shift a little bit if I played Raising Robots more, but I feel pretty confident saying it's not going to shift enough for it to overtake either of those games that I want to play, and that's already enough for me to know that I kind of just want to move on from it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll say right now, I think it's a move on for me as well. But I have a lot of appreciation for a lot of things in here. I'll say right now that the artwork is incredible. This is
gorgeous.
One of the highlights. And this is probably the big draw to the game, I think, because I think if we were to keep playing it, or let's say it was a game that was like black and white and just had random icons and didn't really have art, I don't think the mechanics of the game would not be like, oh, the replayability is so high, because a lot of the abilities, even though there's a giant stack of these robot cards, a lot of the abilities are just different variations of gain this much of this resource, or convert this resource to this resource, or convert this resource to points, or whatever. So it's a lot of just variations, so it ends up feeling kind of mathy and kind of like you're just trying to min-max like how much you extract out of building these combos. So it can be fun to build the combos and that kind of thing, and have a different inventor and stuff. So like, it's not a game I would refuse to play again. Like, it was totally enjoyable and stuff, but I think, it took about an hour to play, and I feel like you, me, and Braden at the end, we all kind of, and to be fair, I played it solo once as well. The solo mode works well too. And we all just kind of went like, oh, it's good. It works pretty well, and like it was fun enough, but I don't really feel the need to revisit it. So,
it was forgettable. Like, it was one of those things that, at least for me, it was just forgettable.
Yeah, I think I'll remember it maybe a little bit more than you, because I don't know, the art. It's not just the art. It's their pop culture references, and we're gonna put a lot of B-roll in here hopefully, because the pop culture references and the amount of detail to how these robots, and there's like 100-some unique cards. Like, it is actually incredible how much time obviously went into designing these robots, and that theme and art does just so much for the game, but unfortunately, it doesn't do enough to mask the kind of just more mediocre parts that don't feel like we want to come back and revisit.
It's one of the most like pretty best looking table presence games that I've played this year. Like that, my thoughts on like wanting to come back to it from a gameplay perspective are very different from the fact that like you're saying, it's really, really beautiful, the artwork and stuff. So if that's something that's definitely like more important to you, and something that it really influences your choice of what games you're going to play, what games you're going to buy, like know that this is a game that the one thing I do remember from it is that when we had it set up, I had a great time looking at everything that was in that box, right?
And even though you're not supposed to show people the cards in your hands, you'd be like, okay, I know it, but like, look at this.
Yes,
like, wow,
exactly.
it's so cool. It's like a reference to a character from the show or like some athlete or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on from Raising Robots and let's talk about
Aegean Sea, which is a new game from Karl Chuddik, and he was the creator of Innovation, that you and Braden have dug into a whole bunch. I've only played Innovation once, and unfortunately I've fallen a little bit behind, that it's harder for me to get into that game now.
Fair.
But Aegean Sea, we've played twice now, right?
Yeah.
So this game, how do I describe this game? So there's 5 asymmetrical factions. Each one has its own deck of cards that is going to play very differently from each of the other factions in terms of their goals, in terms of what the abilities of the cards, all that kind of stuff.
Sparta, Athens, etc.
Yes, exactly. There's going to be islands in the middle of the playing surface or in your playing surface that are going to have some of those cards on them, because every card has an ability on them that can be activated, and they're going to, some of the islands are going to start emptying. You're going to be adding cards to them during the game. The game starts with certain randomly placed ones there as well. All the cards are multi-use in the sense that you're playing them for their ability, or you're using them as cost to be able to play those cards, and you're essentially not going to use that card for its ability at all that game. That when you play these cards onto the islands, they are going to underneath the islands, and essentially can be played in 4 different ways. If they're sticking out the right side, the bottom side, the left side, or the top side, they mean different things. The bottom side's population, the top side's temples, the right side's goods, and the left side ships, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then the middle is something as well, but I'm forgetting what.
Well, then if you just put it in the middle, then the ability is on the card. Right. It doesn't cover it, so that island takes on the ability of the card rather than having it tucked in to just use the icons on the side.
Yes.
And you also have your own private island as well. Don't forget about that.
Yes, and yeah, exactly. And you have your own private island as well that you can be putting cards under as well. The whole point of the game, like in order to try to win, is that you're bringing goods back to your home island, and the amount of goods that you bring, because they're all different colors, the amount of each color that you have is, the more you have, the more points you're going to get, and so you kind of want to try to focus on a specific color.
Exponential scoring.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have 1, it's worth 1 point. If you have 3 of them, each of those is worth 3 points. So that's 9 points for 3 of the same, etc.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on in this game, even though it's like that. I would say like turn structure wise and like what you're doing might seem simple on the surface. The complexity and the strategy behind that is pretty vast. And we've obviously only played 2 factions each. I don't know if they're called factions, but there were 2 of these decks of cards. We each only played each. So there's one we haven't even played with, and I've only played 2 of the 5.
I played the same one. We
played
the same one both times because we wanted to be familiar.
That's right. So
I played Athens both times. You played Sparta both times. We haven't tried the other 3 yet.
Yeah, and each one because there's like the 4 areas of the card that you can place a card under. Each of these decks focuses kind of strongly on one of them. So like the one I played focused heavily on population. So controlling my population and manipulating it was really important, where even though that's something Carlo's doing with his deck, it's not actually what he's like benefiting the most from what he's doing. And so there'll be one that focuses on ships, one that focuses on goods, things like that. That's a really quick overview because it would take me way too long to get into further details. But what else?
That is most of the rules though. That's a lot of them.
Yeah. What I would say is that like, if I now go play with a one of the other decks of cards, it's going to be a very different experience, and one that I'm going to have to like almost start from the ground learning the strategy of. So spoiler or not even spoiler. The answer is I'm digging in, but this one's a little different in the sense that I'm digging in because I'm so curious and intrigued by this game and the things that I'm discovering from just one of the decks of cards, that I want to learn that one more. I also want to explore the other ones. Whether or not I play them all myself, I want to at least play against them to see what they all have, like the capabilities are, and which one I think I would resonate with the most and have the most fun playing. I am just not convinced that even after I dig in, you'll see it on the channel. You'll hear me talk about it. I'm not sure if the end result is going to be that like I've dug in and I loved my time digging in, because I haven't disliked my time and I haven't like loved my time. I've liked it, but I have concerns that I won't get into all the stuff here. There's things I'm not completely sure about. There's things that I think could hinder it over time, or this could be a game that we end up, when we both get really good at it, that it's a game we come back to in the sense the way we come back to games like Santorini, as like, let's throw down like a best of 3 of this. Let's like, this is like a tradition that we play this when we go to the cabin, or we play this around the holidays, whatever, because we know we're both good at it at that point, or have wrapped our heads around it enough to play it. Like, I definitely want to dig in. It's just like, I don't know the exact extent of what I'm going to get from digging in. I don't know if I'm going to be digging in and find treasure down there, or if it's just going to be I've dug a big hole for no reason.
And you're like, that was a lot of time I spent.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's definitely 100% a dig in for me too, and I think I have maybe a bit of a stronger impression than you. And here's the thing. I think the bias that I go into this with is that I saw the amount of plays it took to uncover the depth and the pure enjoyment of innovation took a while. It's an investment to any Carl Chuddick game I hear this about. So I'm kind of giving him and the game the benefit of the doubt right off the bat, no matter what. I will say too, the first time we played, I think it took us almost 2 hours. And the second game we played, I think 2 days later, and it was already like just over an hour. Like we already cut the game time in half just from one more play because every card has quite a bit, or most of them have a lot of text. Some might have only 1 or 2 little sentences, but some of them have a full block of text, and every card is unique in your deck, and like there isn't a single duplicate card or ability in the game. So it's such a puzzle of, oh, but I play this card, but I have to use this to trigger this, but then I don't have the card anymore. And the fact that the multi-use cards is like just out of control here because you can use every card in like 6 or 7 different ways because it's tuck it 4 ways, put it on a middle island, put it on your own island, discard it. Like there's so many different things. You can increase your hand size. There's parts in the game where like I had 2 cards in my hand and you had 8 suddenly, and I'm like, man, the options, what is this guy gonna do? And I have to tell a story real quick. Okay? From my perspective, okay, I'm going to put you in my shoes just so you understand. It's so hard to accomplish anything in this game. If you don't like games where you got to like scrape and claw to get anything done, then this just won't be a game for you. Because in order to even move goods, you have to have a ship of yours on the island, you have to have a good on the island, and then you have to have control of the island by having more populace than your opponent. And let's say I did that to like, now I gain control. Well, Dylan still has another turn to try and undo my control or get rid of my ships or move the good or whatever. And then once I have control, then I still have to use a turn to use the ships to bring them back, okay? So I have this plan in my hand. I'm thinking like 5-6 turns ahead. Okay, I have these cards. I had something on my home island. I had this card that basically would allow me to take multiple people and goods with ships from my island and have this big turn. So I spend like 6-7 turns getting this lined up. And then just think of this thematically, okay? I'm Athens again. Dylan is Sparta, so very combative. Dylan suddenly shows up at my island. He comes over.
Your home island.
Yeah, my home island. He sails over to my home island. Okay, I've got a couple ships, a couple people, and some goods. He destroys my ships and converts them into goods in front of my people, okay? Then, after my ships have been converted and my people are now stuck on the island, then he slaughters my people, okay, murders them. Then he takes the goods, or no, he leaves one person alive so that there's someone alive to tell and then leaves. And I just like,
couldn't believe it.
Felt like someone like knocked me off my bike, slashed my tires, and then took a bat to my kneecaps and then spit in my face and walked away.
And then said, the one witness who was there is like, tell the tale.
Exactly. That's what happens when you mess with Sparta. And I was just like, in some ways, it just felt so bad, but I also, like, I loved it. And I just said the fact that you can do that and that the game can tell that type of a story from just like moving cards around was so fascinating to me. And that was like, that kind of was what sold me on like, I need to play this a lot more. It goes up to 5 players. I don't think we'll ever play with 4 or 5, but we need to bring in a third to try it as 3 players.
I want to try it as a 3-player game, but I think I'm going to end up being comfortable. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I think I'm going to end up being comfortable having this be a game that I settle on being like, I only want to play this game with 2 players, but I want to play it a lot as 2. But we'll see.
That's how I felt about innovation. I don't want to play innovation with 3 ever. But I think the thing about adding a 3rd player is if you did that and came to my island and wrecked me, then like you've left yourself exposed. Now Braden goes into your area, so that's the interesting dynamic. So I want to dig way into this game, but it could be a while before we talk about this more on the channel. But super interesting, and a lot of people I think played it once and wrote it off. And yeah, if you don't want to put in the time, you're not going to get rewarded from this game, but there's a lot to dig into here.
Agreed.
All right.
Close it off with our last one.
The last game we're talking about here is Ticket to Ride Legacy: Legends of the West, which is the 2023, obviously, Ticket to Ride Legacy game. So we started this campaign. We're doing it 4 players, right? The 3, you, me, Braden, and Dave, who's our good friend who also runs Victory Pints. Go to victorypints.ca if you're not familiar yet, or go to the description below. amazing.
Or waltz on in there and buy some games whenever you want here in Winnipeg.
And you say the words top shelf billing, and you may or may not get some type of reward out of it. Okay.
And like I said, you have to walk in there this when I did that.
Yes.
That's the other thing, to get the 10% discount.
And just, he ships games Canada-wide. So, anyways, that's enough. That's enough, Dave. No, Dave's great. So, and this is Dave's copy. So thank you, Dave, because we weren't sure if we wanted to take the risk on this game because we didn't know what to expect. Ticket to Ride Legacy, did it need a Legacy game?
Yep.
And I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot. First off, because spoilers. We don't want to spoil anything. And we've only played the first 2 out of 12 scenarios, and it was a few months ago now, about 3 months ago.
And the rules are like, if you know Ticket to Ride, there's not really any point in us explaining. Like the rule, if you know Ticket to Ride, the rules are generally the same, but obviously Legacy games evolve over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll just say right now, if you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, maybe skip ahead because there's going to be some, but I will try not to get into any real spoiler details. And again, we've only played the first 2 scenarios. But the idea is you're only starting off with part of the map initially. And as you keep playing through, we're presumably going to be unlocking more parts of the map. Again, a lot of this is I'm rusty on because of how long ago we played it now. So I'm not going to get into specifics, but they kind of there's things that incentivize you to go certain routes. You also have little secret agendas that the other player, not just about I want to get from here to here, but there's other things you want to accomplish. Like if you establish certain things in certain cities or a certain number of these things, you're going to have things that unlock at the end. There's going to be all I will say is the ways that you permanently alter the game and cards, there is some ruining things. This isn't one you're going to be able to replay unless you don't use the components.
Yeah.
And I will, remember when we played Charterstone and there was the candle?
Yes.
There was some, I won't say what it is, but there's something like that where we opened it up and we went it's an office supply. I'll just say you can find this at Staples or Walmart. We just as if they put this in. You're this is an awesome.
Great. Yeah.
It's thematic. It was so satisfying to use, and I don't know. There was some we were trash talking and it was the most, I would say fun is a subjective word and it's open to interpretation. But this is the most fun I've had playing Ticket to Ride before because of just. The stakes feel a little bit higher. The story is kind of silly and ridiculous, but it did help us kind of buy in a little bit.
Yep.
And so far, it really exceeded my expectations. I thought, let's check it out, see what it's like. And I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to get back to it soon.
Yeah.
This is absolutely a dig. there's no way we won't play all 12. We're for sure going to play through the campaign.
Yep.
We'll see if the rest of it lives up to our expectations.
Yeah, I don't have a ton more to add aside from the fact that I've never stopped enjoying Ticket to Ride. Even if I don't go back to it for a couple of years, it is a classic, and it's something that if anyone suggested, especially because it's someone who's newer to board games, or it's something we need something more family friendly, whatever the reason is, I'll always be happy to play it, even if it's not my first choice, because it's just fun, and it's something I remember. You recall the rules to very easily. It feels satisfying and comforting almost to play. It's almost like a good comfort game at that point for me, and so to see it evolved on in this way with a group of friends that we're going to come back to is kind of just I was concerned about it, and I'm concerned with any Legacy game because of how much of a fad it became, or has become. But this one, with how quick it is to get into it, if you know the rules of Ticket to Ride, how cool it is to see them innovating on a classic in different evolutionary ways as you go. The office supply that they introduce, different things they bring in, it's really just a fun Ticket to Ride variant that evolves over time, and that has proven to be, with a group of 4 friends or 3 friends, something that I just resonate with. I want to go back to. Yeah. I'd recommend. I'm sure it's still enjoyable at 2 and 3 and stuff, but because it doesn't really inflate the length of the game or the campaign in huge ways. Yeah. If you can get 3 people and do a full 4-person campaign that you're coming back to, 12 sessions of a game
I think it goes up to 5 actually.
Oh, great!
We're doing 4, which is really good, I think.
And
too.
And it goes quick enough that it's not hard at all to play multiple sessions in one go.
And the only reason why we only got 2 done is because we literally took off the shrink and read through the rules the first time together. But if we had it set up and ready to go, we probably could have done 4 in the first day.
Yeah, I feel anytime we get together to play this, we won't do less than 2.
Minimum
right?
2 or 3, yeah.
And it's different than a game like Gloomhaven, where sometimes you do 1 because it takes 3 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening.
And wasn't the first game only in terms of the number of turns, it was probably 12 turns
each.
It wasn't many turns at all.
Yeah.
You probably do the first scenario in 20, 30 minutes. So.
Yeah, so it's a definite dig in for me, which is what you want to hear from a Legacy game, because it's meant to be dug into for at least the amount of sessions it takes to complete it. So I'm cannot wait to play this into more and to complete the entire campaign and see how many like more kooky, interesting, fun, creative ways they have to like evolve on the Ticket to Ride concept.
Yeah, definitely intrigued. Okay, so just to recap real quick, Classic Art is a dig in for both of us. Marabunta, dig in for both of us. Lord of the Rings Duel, dig in for both of us. Wild Wild West, move on from both of us. Sail, dig in / move on, but we might end up playing them together still. Patterns, dig in both. Kelp, both digging in. Raising Robots, we'll be moving on from. And then Aegean Sea, we're going to dig in. And Ticket to Ride Legacy, dig in. I want to end by asking you a question.
Yep.
Let's not harp on the move on games anymore, but if you had to pick from the list, which game so far do you like the most, and which one do you want to dig into the most? I'm curious if they're the same game or if they're different.
I would say the one I like the most, it's super close. I think it's close. I'll say the one I like the most is Lord of the Rings Duel from Middle-earth. Based on like my initial plays, I think that's just it's an easier pick because I know I love that game. Aegean Sea is the one I want to dig into the most, and it's the other one I was considering for saying that I like the most because it's the best way I can describe it is I don't know how I feel about it, and when you describe certain things about it, there's part of me that's like, I want to come and play this right now. Like, it makes me want to play it. But then I remember,
feel like for you, it could end up being a 6 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10, right?
I really don't know. I'm conflicted on it. So yeah, I would say I like Lord of the Rings the most, and I want to dig into Aegean Sea the most.
Cool. I'm pretty similar. A dig in is absolutely Aegean Sea, but the one I'm most confident in how I feel and that I like the most so far is Patterns.
Yeah, I guess Patterns is a close one for me too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I honestly, Lord of the Rings Duel and Marabunta are pretty close to Patterns for me, and
Yeah.
even Classic Art was really good. But
Lots of good ones here. And we only had one we like disagreed on, otherwise we kind of aligned on what
True.
there was and move on again. This time. We'll see what happens
This time, yeah. And in the future, they're not. I know we leaned a lot towards newer games here. I think Classic Art was the only kind of older release. That won't always be the case, but we just have a lot of new games that we've been trying that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. So
yeah. And that's pretty much it. So just know if we said we're going to dig in, there's a good chance you're going to hear more about it in some way or another on this channel. If we said move on, the chances you're going to hear about it again are slim unless something changes or unless there's like it fits the theme of whatever we're talking about in that video.
I will just say, games like Raising Robots, Wild West, even though I said move on, those are going to appear in my 2023 tier list video because they did release that year. So I might talk about them for like 30 seconds and you'll see how they rank compared to other releases from that year. But yeah, we won't be like reviewing them.
Yeah, and that's it. Thanks for, let us know in the comments if you like this new series. And again, this is our way of sort of like letting you know what we're currently playing that you might not hear about for a while because we're still needing to play more. Or if you're wondering, hey, why haven't they reviewed this game or whatever, it might appear here and you might find out that we're not going to review it because it's something we're just no longer, we're moving on from. So let us know if you like this this new series idea and also what games you might want to hear us talk about in this series.
Also, if you're a patron, I just thought of a small nugget we're going to give you. I'm going to go into the Patreon Discord after we're done filming this video, or when this video comes out, and we're going to put all the other potential name suggestions that Dylan, Braden, and I bounced around before we settled on dig in or move on.
Lots.
Just we had like 20 different possibilities we threw out there. That
most of them rhymed, and then I think we realized that if we're going to come up with a name for this, we got to ditch the rhyme.
Yeah,
it wasn't working.
Something easy that hopefully will bring a few laughs. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, everyone.
Yeah, see you next time. Damn, I did it.